Yo, this is the Scarcity Studios YouTube channel. Please don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe. And our sponsors are Alpha Claims and Hire Birmingham, the leading and best accident management company. Get a replacement car anywhere in 1 hour. I really appreciate you joining me today, and this story comes from Coventry. We cover a lot of Coventry news, and I think this story is important. It highlights things that a lot of people need to be aware of, and risks that some people are taking that they don't even realise they are. James Rowley has been jailed for 9 years for the manslaughter of a care worker. He was riding an off-road bike and he fatally punched a man who challenged him over his dangerous driving, and the court said he lied throughout the trial. He was riding on grassland in Jubilee Crescent in Coventry on a stolen scrambler on the 17th of March. He was approached by care worker Tandy Joe Higgins. Witnesses earlier described seeing Rowley speeding through residential streets, jumping red lights and mounting the pavement. At one point he got into a row with a motorist after nearly causing a crash at a traffic lights. Mr. Higgins was out that day celebrating St. Patrick's Day with his family. He feared for the safety of young children playing outside, and he urged Rowley to stop. Rowley responded by revving the bike's engine, the spinning wheels showering Mr. Higgins and his friend in dirt, before flooring the victim with a single punch. Joe Higgins suffered a serious head injury and he died the following day in hospital. James Rowley even picked up his St. Patrick's Day hat that was on the floor as what the police described as a trophy, and he was heard laughing as he sped away on his bike. Shortly afterwards, the police launched a murder investigation, and the 21-year-old handed himself into police on the 20th of March as the net closed in. James Rowley claimed Mr. Higgins approached him in an aggressive manner, shouting, "I'm gonna do you," and he suggested that he only threw one punch in self-defence. In the police interview, he described himself as a dad and the softest, nicest guy you'll ever come across. However, James Rowley has a record of violence from a child, including assault when he was 14, when he grabbed his mother around the throat, slapped her across the face, and told the police that she needs a bullet between the eyes. The CCTV and social media footage was obtained, plus accounts provided by witnesses contradicting his version of events. In the face of compelling evidence, Rowley later changed his account and went on to admit manslaughter and also dangerous driving at Leamington Justice Centre. On the 21st of September, he was jailed. Detective Inspector Jim Coffclough described Mr. Higgins' death as tragic and senseless. He said Joe grew up in the area and he didn't like people disrespecting the community. Witnesses described him approaching Rowley politely, and he wanted to convey his concerns for the danger that he was posing to other people in the street. Some witnesses described seeing Rowley laughing and dancing on the victim's hat with a single punch. The death was also witnessed by several children that were on the street. Rowley went into hiding for 2 days before handing himself in. The judge said he spent his time planning his lies to tell in police interview. They already gathered evidence from independent witnesses and also CCTV and social media footage showing James Rowley's dangerous driving and the assault. This guy's threw a considerable amount of time from his life away, just from this simple decision to punch somebody that was asking him to not commit an offence. And this has definitely been a big problem in Coventry, the West Midlands, and probably all over the country, to be honest. And the police are doing a lot of initiatives to actually seize bikes and try and take a lot of these bikes off the road. In this reference from Birmingham, off-road bikers were spotted in Aldridge shortly after 1 PM on the 20th of September. Police tried to stop the biker. They went on a police chase. A police helicopter spotted them and tracked them into Netherfield Park in Great Bar, where the officers found more off-road bikes. A 28-year-old male was detained on suspicion of dangerous driving and failing to stop and driving with no insurance or licence. The helicopter spotted a 15-year-old boy also driving a motorbike in King's Standing. The teenager attempted to run off but was quickly caught by the police and charged with no insurance and dangerous driving. The teenager and the 28-year-old man have both been released on bail to appear in court. The sergeant in charge of the operation said, "We are taking illegal off-road bikes off the streets and we take it very seriously when people cause a nuisance to the residents of the area. They have increased the presence of police motorbikes in the force as a way to be able to chase these bikes safely and effectively." And this just goes to show again the dangers and the risks that you take. Bike life is very popular nowadays, but I just ask people to be very careful and also considerate of pedestrians and people going about their day-to-day business. As the video footage showed, James Rowley was committing a lot of different offences and he was just not being considerate of people. So if you do want to ride a bike, try and take it to a place that is okay and safe to do so. So rest in peace to Joe Higgins and my condolences to his family, and I hope that James Rowley sorts his life out when he comes out of prison and makes some better choices in the future. Because this is what people forget, is that it's about that one choice, that one decision. And this is what you have to remember in every situation. In this story from Sheffield, a gang member was arrested for a drive-by shooting on an innocent boy after confessing to a crime in a rap song that he wrote in prison. Stephen Dunford, 26, from Sheffield, shot a 12-year-old boy when he attempted to shoot somebody that he had a problem with and then decided to go and make a rap about it. He sped past the group of kids when he opened fire and struck the child. Emergency services rushed to the scene and transported the boy to hospital. He suffered a leg injury and was discharged from hospital. He was found guilty of an additional charge of possession of a firearm with intent to endanger life from the shooting that took place on January the 10th on Northcote Avenue. Dunford was charged with attempted murder, possession of a firearm with intent to endanger life, after the tragic incident occurred in Sheffield, South Yorkshire. They took part in a 6-week trial, so this would have cost a lot of money to have gone through as well. And he was also found guilty of an additional charge of possession of a firearm with intent to endanger life in connection to a firearm discharge on a different day. The court heard how Dunford recited in a rap that he had written himself during a phone call in prison that he said a youth got hit by a stray in reference to a bullet. The group of children were on their way to a cinema that afternoon at 3:45 when they were shot by Dunford. Detective Chief Inspector James Bryce said this was an atrocious act that resulted in the shooting of a young innocent boy. The victim that day was not Dunford's intended target, but the incident had a profound effect on him and his family. CCTV footage from the afternoon shows a white car driving past the group and witnesses describe shots being fired. The boys immediately ran from the car, clearly terrified. One of the boys, 12 years old at the time, was shot in the leg. He bravely managed to run home to his dad. Understandably traumatised, they called emergency services to the scene. A second boy miraculously escaped one of the stray bullets that struck the hood of his jacket, narrowly missing his neck and head. Later that night, police were called to a fire of a vehicle on Clough Road. It was a white Ford Focus, the same car used in the shooting. Checks revealed it had been stolen from West Yorkshire back in 2019. They had a lot of evidence against him, and his confession in prison just added to this. During the phone call when he recited the lyrics that this youth had been killed, had been caught with a stray bullet, the police knew they had enough evidence. His friend Brandon Brady was also found guilty of possession of a firearm with intent to endanger life after his DNA was found on it after a wider investigation. So both of these guys basically snitched on themselves, and all of these stories, you should really take time before you make any big decision or choice in your life. So I really appreciate you joining me today. I really want to hear what people have to say on these stories. Please don't forget to follow us online at Scarcity Studios, and I'll be back again very shortly with some more news. Peace.